Continuing with part 2. With those beautiful memories and hope. Then something happened soon. No matter how intelligent Lee Hyuk was, he couldn't anticipate that the first monster they encountered outside the apartment building would be a muscular, evolved version. With a single strike, it demolished one side of the car. Payeon passed out, and people began to flee the vehicle. Inside, there was a sense of unease. Lee Hyuk ordered everyone to rush outside for supplies, but it was too late. To save Hwai-soo, Mr. Seop sacrificed himself. People frantically attempted to attack the monster, but its strength was overwhelming. Suddenly, a bus came out of nowhere and rammed the monster unconscious. 5 people descended from the bus: Baek Ho-yeon, Lim Hyun-sul, Jo Ewin, Seo Gap-soo, and their leader, Shin Jun. Payeon quickly realized that this was a bus containing criminals, and these individuals were definitely not good people. Especially since he and their leader held a deep-seated grudge against each other. However, because they had saved everyone and the monsters seemed to be drawn to noise, they had no choice but to let all 5 people in. While everyone mourned for Mr. Anseep's sacrifice, the criminals remained indifferent to it. Only Jo Enbing stepped forward, providing Yuri, an asthmatic, with an inhaler to alleviate her condition. Meanwhile, the criminal leader Shin Jun made demands of Payeon, insisting on taking control and publicly executing the infected individuals. At this moment, Lee Hyuk intervened, expressing suspicion about the bus not being fully stocked as Shin Jun claimed and negotiating a 3-day delay in exchanging the infected individuals. Upon hearing the information provided by his comrades, Shin Jun became intrigued, learning that there were 3 infected people but only 2 were detained. Meanwhile, Jisoo was playing a new song for Hyun-soo. When he asked if the melodies could help forget the brutality, Jisoo recounted her past, witnessing the death of her boyfriend who had always accompanied her during performances. She hoped he could write lyrics for the song she had just composed. A glimmer of good news came from Lee Hyun-soo, who recounted encountering a government-built sanctuary on their journey. However, being criminals, they didn't enter. This revelation garnered much agreement from the group. However, he then began to tell a story about an infected person sheltered by a church who turned into a monster and killed everyone. This suddenly sparked conflict among the group as they were allowing Hyuk-soo, an infected person, to move freely. Only Eun realized that Lee Hyun-soo was subtly trying to sow discord among them. Meanwhile, the gang leader Shin Jun approached Hwik-soo to persuade him to join his faction. He had a goal to seize control of the entire building and turn it into his own base. However, Hyun-soo refused and advised him to use his strongest weapon, Jo Yehan, a half-monster even more powerful than him. When he was attacked, he didn't fight back, disappointing the leader. However, Shin-juin still didn't relent and urged him to consider joining him, knowing he could use him. Shin-juin assigned 2 criminals the task of checking the remaining infected individuals. The residents of the apartment were also present. However, what they saw was Mrs. Seon lying unconscious in a gaping hole in the ceiling. Signs indicated that Jae had turned into a monster and escaped. Just then, Shin-jun arrived. He shot Mrs. Seon dead in front of everyone. Enraged, Payeon rushed to attack him. However, the gunshot had attracted multi-legged monsters, forcing them to fight them off. Thanks to Jo Ewin stopping one of the monsters, they were less in danger. However, these multi-legged monsters were formidable. After numerous battles, they only grew stronger but remained undefeated. This left the group in a passive position. Hearing a loud noise, Hyun-soo ran over, only to encounter Jae, who had fully transformed into a monster. Although not attacking, it constantly followed him, asking about its appearance, resembling Jae's obsession with his former appearance as a human. Hyun-soo had no choice but to defeat it. On the other side, the final battle collapsed after Jo Yehan allowed a monster to control its actions. Chin-yun then helped him regain composure. Just then, Mrs. Sheehan, who had been shot dead, suddenly appeared from behind in a soulless state. Jo Yehan quickly realized the entity controlling her was a liquid monster. Although it didn't attack, Chin-yun ordered his subordinates to destroy it. It turned out to be a boy infected while playing hide-and-seek, witnessing his mother being killed by a monster. Thus, after turning into a liquid form, the boy continued his game. Thanks to their efforts in defeating the monster, Shin-jun's group became more powerful. They issued orders to take over the place and forced everyone to choose to obey or resist and be isolated. Hyun-soo chose to join them at this moment. He was desperate after having to kill the monster that was once Jae. The replacements then joined one by one. Only Payeon, Jisoo, Yuri, and the 2 children remained. In the basement, Jin-jun ordered Seo Gap-soo to persuade Mr. Dusik to submit and work for him. However, he was a murderous lunatic, so he resisted and intended to kill him. Only with the appearance of Mrs. Byung-gu was he saved. Dusik revealed that Mr. Lee Hyuk had devised a final plan to escape from here. And at all costs, they had to protect it from the criminals. Shio Huixu was then punished by Shin Jun for disobeying orders. Hyun-soo and Joey Hwin were tasked with eliminating all the remaining monsters in the apartment. This made Hyun-soo anxious because Mrs. Myongjia was still in the form of a newborn monster upstairs. Sensing something amiss, Joey Hwin sought answers by questioning the monster within him, and Hyun-soo was determined to stop him to protect Mrs. Myongjia at all costs. During the fight, Joey Hwin regained his rationality and returned to normal. Both agreed to allow Hyun-soo to inspect the monster Mrs. Myongjia had turned into. However, in the room on the 14th floor, what he saw was a cocoon. At this moment, Joey Hwin rushed over, intending to destroy it to prevent any repercussions. However, the monster inside him wouldn't give him the chance to act. Hyun-soo decided to destroy the cocoon. But every time he thought of Mrs. Myongjia, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Suddenly, Jisoo ran over after learning of the situation. She intended to help him, but like Hyun-soo, she couldn't act. Jisoo briefed him on the current situation, that Shin Jun intended to kill them all. Just then, Joey Hwin regained consciousness and threw a firebomb towards the cocoon, causing it to burn to ashes. From afar, the monster seemed to sense something amiss and began to advance towards the apartment complex. Lee Hyuk and Payeon, after refusing to cooperate with Shin Jun's group, found themselves isolated in a room. Here, Lee Hyuk explained the secret plan he had made about Mr. Do-sik. It involved using fabric to make a 100-meter rope to help them cross to the mountain behind the apartment complex. There, without people, the monsters hadn't retreated, and there was a newly built apartment complex where they could seek refuge. However, Payeon also learned that Lee Hyuk had begun showing signs of monster transformation. At this moment, Baek Ho-yeon, Shin Jun's henchman, entered to check. After a few provocative remarks from Payeon, he cut the rope to prepare to fight him. This foolish decision led to his immediate defeat. The sound signal of the monster sounded, a winged monster appeared from the window and grabbed Jisoo. Joey Hein chased after her, another monster appeared from the doorway, leaving Hyuk-soo alone to resist. To save her, he almost turned into a monster himself. But her pleading words brought him back to his senses. He used an electric spear to shock Jisoo, causing both her and the monster to convulse, thus releasing her. Payeon escaped from the room. He carried the unconscious Lee Hyuk to hijack the criminal's bus. Thanks to this, he realized that everything they said was just a lie. There was no food on the bus, only a box containing human meat. It was what they used as bait to lure other monsters away. Outside the apartment, monsters began to flood in. Payeon decided to sacrifice himself as bait to lure the monsters away from the apartment. He ran into the nearby forest but discovered rows of cocoons surrounding him. One of them stirred, and before him emerged a human born from within the cocoon. Meanwhile, after chasing the monster to the highest floor, Joey Hun discovered a woman standing there. Hyun-soo and Jisoo descended to the first floor, just in time to witness Shin Jun decapitating a person beside them to use as bait for the monsters. Furious, he rushed in to confront them, but Jisoo was captured as a hostage. Lee Hyuk appeared from behind and knocked out Shin Jun. However, Lee Hyuk sensed that something was amiss. He grabbed a gun and intended to kill the criminals. Although Shin Jun was down, he still arrogantly dismissed the threat, believing Lee Hyuk wouldn't dare. Lee Hyuk recounted how his father had lied to commit suicide after his company went bankrupt and his mother died, leaving him and his sister alone. Therefore, Lee Hyuk always believed that adults pretended to know everything, but in reality, they knew nothing. Both felt the unusual transformation in him. Hyun-soo reminisced about the movie they both loved and hoped to watch it together with him after overcoming all of this. At this moment, a flying monster appeared, emitting a foul odor more pungent than a donut, and attacked everyone. The door was smashed, and from outside, more monsters poured in. Lee Hyuk instructed everyone to quickly move to higher floors. Meanwhile, he would go find Mr. Do-sik. Jisoo went to find the children, while Hyun-soo went to find Eun to bring them all up to the upper floors. Seo Gap-soo stumbled upon a naked girl sitting in the hallway. With impending doom, escaping was no longer the top priority. He flirted with the girl, only to be attacked by a monster from behind. At this moment, blood trickled from Seo Gap-soo's nose, indicating signs of infection. One member of the group fleeing the monster was killed, but they still had to continue ascending to higher floors to avoid pursuit. The urgency of their mission drove them forward, despite the harrowing obstacles in their path. Each floor climbed brought them closer to safety, yet also deeper into the heart of danger. With every passing moment, the relentless pursuit of the monsters kept them on edge, their survival hanging by a thread. And that concludes this part. See you in the next one. Peace.